since the crowd is here and is joined, and we have a good roll right into things, let me formalize it and welcome everyone to this NYU SPS Tisch Institute for Global Sport Talk with our guest from Arlington, Texas, Mayor Jeff Williams, and we got alongside here a colleague, Liz Haas. Mayor, welcome.
So glad to be here, and I've just got to say thank you to you and Liz and the great direction and leadership that you provided our community. And you've put us on an incredible uptick in direction, even in the midst of this pandemic.
Well, thank you. We're going to get to that and more, and we'll try to express equal, if not more, thanks to you all, and also to some friends I see in the participants list here, some good friends from Arlington who are really leading the way in sports and in growing communities in the places that we live. So to get to that, all of that conversation, really want to get underway by saying that the last time actually that we had a conversation in person was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter meeting in Washington, D.C. this past January. No social distancing, no physical distancing. We didn't know of it. But among the many things to look forward to at that time, Arlington was preparing for the opening of Globe Life Park. What has changed in Arlington these past several months?
Well, just like America, we had our stay-at-home orders that came down right before we were about to do opening day of baseball. And so it did change us and it changed America. And in fact, it's changed us there probably for the rest of our lives with new normals coming. But however, it's been encouraging through the mix of all of that. America is reopening and Arlington is one of the leaders in that. And that has been so exciting. We have been very I should say aggressive in trying to find solutions to where we could exist in the mix of the pandemic and continue to do our jobs, provide for our families and move ahead. And so we just hosted the uh, World Series and the National League Championship Series very successfully. And we're looking forward. And of course, they all had guidelines, they were reduced attendance. So we did not ignore public health. We put public health at the top, but still they're moving out and making things happen.
Well, on that note, speaking about Major League Baseball and hosting the Championship Series, the World Series, it happened to be that Arlington was a neutral site for all of this. I don't want to mention that it had nothing to do with the Rangers' playoff hopes, but we'll get there.
No, it did not.
But nevertheless, in a really tough time, this was a real what a great thing to see for Arlington. And in the run of it, Commissioner Rob Manfred said that he would entertain the idea of a World Series being hosted at a neutral site, which was kind of new ground for baseball. It had been, and it's still kind of being batted around, no pun intended. But it's always been sort of home and home for the teams that make it. But something happened beyond, I think, the pandemic. What do you think that he saw? What do you feel that he saw in Arlington that has him thinking more about neutral sites than at any time in the past?
Well, I actually can tell you, he visited with me about it, so I'll share with you directly. Commissioner Manfred, it was a great moment because I happened to have some fellow mayors there, including the past president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors when he was talking to me. And anyway, he said that it was amazing there with just the few weeks of planning what Arlington was able to do in the way of hospitality and planning, and that Arlington had done an incredible job. And we have in Globe Life Field the next generation of ballpark. The fan amenities and the player amenities are far beyond any other Major League Baseball facility. And he said that it was a phenomenal place to host. And then, of course, too, we have developed a facility where we have the largest entertainment facility in Texas Live in the state of Texas. And they tell me it's the largest outside of Vegas, which is 12 restaurants around a huge arena with a large food and beverage screen. And our Live by Lowe's hotels that the Tisch family there owns, and have really introduced hospitality, and of course a very close connection there to you guys, and it's the same Tisch family, and they do an incredible job. But he said it really crystallized the many advantages to knowing where the World Series is going to be. He saw lots of excitement there with it, but usually you're planning for 1 week in advance for the next week that the World Series is coming to your city. And we've experienced that here in Arlington. We had it in 2010 and 2011 because the Rangers did make it. This time, of course, it was because it was a neutral site, but it was a very hurried, put together event there in 2010 and 2011. And this one, we were able to plan, and I can't. And when I think about what could be done after the pandemic, it'll be even more exciting. So we're hopeful that the owners will decide to do that.
So actually, on a couple of notes there, and including that great background that you've got, which speaks to a few things. Uh, the Dallas Cowboys, owned by Jerry Jones and family. The Texas Rangers, owned by Ray Davis and company there. Loews Hotels in Texas Live. That's as you mentioned, Tisch and Cordish families. Uh, these are powerful people in business and industry. Uh, they move a lot of things. You've got them all in the city. When it comes to doing things with the city, uh, are they sort of individually and collectively? Are they more about power or partnership?
Well, let me just specifically compliment the Jones family and the Rangers owners to begin with. They have been working together since the Cowboys opened up in 2009. They also work beautifully with our Six Flags Over Texas amusement park. It is the largest and amusement park within the Six Flags system. They're all within walking distance there, and in the background of what you see for me, you see AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys there. You see Live by Lowe's, and then directly behind me is the two-story Texas Live, and then behind it is Globe Life Field. Imagine how important it is for them to work together. Because they all are having events, and AT&T Stadium is having over 300 events a year. The new Globe Life Field, they hope to work into having 300 events a year. And so they have to share parking, of course, also for our community to be able to move people in and out of the venues during events. It's really key that they cooperate. And they very much believe in their partners winning also, the same way with the Tisch family. It's amazing how they want their partners to win and everyone to win. Well, I don't know another place in America where you have families of these kind of resources all working together to make a place special, and then willing to work with other people. And of course, our goal, and it's a common goal of all the partners, is for us to be the destination between Orlando and Vegas, there in the center of the country.
Well, I know we want to dive into a bunch of those things. Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Williams, when we were working together, one of the challenges was that Arlington is kind of between Dallas and Fort Worth and without its own ID, so to speak. When you hosted the World Series, did people stay in Arlington?
They did.
Was it an Arlington event for really the first time?
It really was, Liz. You hit on a real key in the Live by Lowe's. And of course, we have other hotels, but the Live by Lowe's was really the catalyst for making that happen. Because so many times in the past, and for instance, when we hosted the Super Bowl there in 2011, there at AT&T Stadium, we didn't have the hotels to really house them. We didn't have Texas Live to provide even more entertainment. And then in addition to that, we have developed our downtown that is just a mile away. And and back in 2011, we had probably 5 restaurants down there. Now we're around 30 restaurant and bars in downtown Arlington. And so a lot has developed there. And then I've got to say this, the exposure that we got during the NLCS and the World Series was tremendous. And then you probably heard the announcers bragging on Arlington, bragging on the facility, but also getting it right. I didn't hear one time them saying they were in Dallas. They said, we're in Arlington, Texas. And that's something that didn't just happen. We had to work at it. And I think we've finally gotten there. And then too, with the events we have coming up, I think again, with the country virtually shut down on major events, we're again going to have some great exposure.
My other question about hosting those events, when you hosted them, was there something of a bubble to how you managed it?
Oh, there really was. And in fact, as an example, the ball players and their immediate families, they were inside an inner bubble. I mean, literally, Major League Baseball was controlling it along with their medical personnel. And then fans that came to the game there, they were part of our medical team for our city. And of course, they were all instructed on the guidelines. They were monitored as they came into the ballpark itself. And then, yes, we had a mask patrol. We actually had monitors going throughout. They're reminding people to either wear the mask or to keep that distance. And it was amazing behavior. I was very impressed with how well the fans did. And then I've got besides Major League Baseball, you can move over to the NFL because the Cowboys, we've had several home games, and the fans there, which are known to be really rowdy, the NFL fans, they have been monitoring, or they. I think that people want to keep having games and they don't want to see that disrupted. That's the only motivator I can see, because we know outside in our bars and restaurants they have not behaved as well as they have at these sporting events.
Do you think the players are part of the role modeling here?
Oh, very much so. It's very key. And they have been doing well at the games that I have attended.
A few more questions coming up, but I want to make sure that that anybody who is joining us in the audience, if you've got questions, please post them in the chat or in the Q&A, so we make sure to get to them before our time with the mayor is up. But Mayor Williams, what are some other things what are some big things that you've kind of learned from the experience with Major League Baseball, with the Cowboys picking up their season, that can apply to the rest of the country?
Well, I think it's so important to communicate there, and we can't communicate enough the fact that our mask and our social distancing and our hygiene are truly working. They're tools for us to combat this disease so that we can continue on with our lives. And then we know too, the mental health of our country is very much tied to sports for so many. And the opportunity for us to improve the mental health and the morale, because depression is just very real right now in these times. There's such a sense of loss, and real loss that many have had, both in losing relatives there to the disease, or just missing graduations, or a family event, going to opening day of baseball that we always look forward to, and suddenly we don't have that to go to. And lots of family memories that of events that we're not able to have right now. So I would say that please continue to communicate how important it is there, because we're still a few months out before vaccines there we're able to vaccine in a meaningful way. And yet we have an opportunity for us to start coming out and not having to wait the next 6 months or a year there to be able to have some incredible events and incredible experiences if we follow the guidelines that the medical community has derived. It's not the politicians, and we need to leave that out of it. and please listen to our medical professionals.
I'm just going to let that hang there for a moment.
I understand. Yes.
Make sure that everybody's got the message. With that, we're talking about professional sports for the most part here, and plenty more things to dive in on. We're going to talk about esports at a point before.
I was hoping so, Lee.
But, I thought you might be warmed up for it, but to get there, what's going on in the city in terms of youth sports, amateur sports, recreation during this pandemic?
Well, we are still moving ahead there with youth sports. And then, of course, isn't it great that it's outdoors? And then we have been fortunate here that we have had incredible weather. And that, I think that's kind of a gift, because normally in Texas this time of year, it's just a real guess of what the weather is going to be like. But we have been able to continue on, and mainly using social distance there to be able to make it happen. And then it's also been really good that our kids are less susceptible to the COVID, but also if they do get it, it's a milder case than what we see in others. So we have been moving ahead on youth sports, but I can tell you that our city parks and recreation department has been giving great instruction to our coaches and our umpires, referees too, on what to do and how to do it. And so even our parents, when they're watching the games, are social distancing there and spreading apart in the mix of it, and staying in their family unit there as that has progressed.
Can we just jump back for a second to the MLB's decision, how they chose Arlington? As you were talking, it sounded like there was a lot of planning that was going on at the Global Life Stadium. And you hosted, I don't know, 60 high school graduations there. Did they see that? Did that give them confidence? Was that part of how they came to you? You're going to them. How did it get started that they moved forward with the NLCS and the World Series?
Liz, that's a great question. Here's what happened. Back, I believe it was December, the owners meeting was held in Arlington so that the owners could actually tour and see this new state-of-the-art ballpark. And after they had toured, and by the way, we had them all here, which was amazing there that they all came. And after they toured the ballpark, they said, yes, this truly is the next generation of ballpark. It is the new 21st century standard there that we'll be having for a ballpark. And it was a huge success. They stayed at Live by Loews, they experienced Texas Live, and then they saw the ballpark. So we knew that we had a pretty good chance there if they did go into a bubble situation or a neutral site situation, that Arlington would be chosen. Also, I've got to give credit to the Texas Rangers owners. They were very aggressive in letting it be known that they wanted to do that, and wanted to be able to host, whether it be to be a bubble site or to be a neutral site. And so we had a huge preview that took place with all the owners. So whenever the owners came together to talk about what they were going to do, and in this case, it ended up not being a bubble, it ended up being a neutral site. Then yes, we were chosen, and we were preparing for that. And it's kind of an interesting thing, and that's something, Lee, that applies to the question before. We have to prepare. If you don't prepare for events and so forth, then you'll never have them, because in the midst of this pandemic, and then there's many times when the virus acts in a negative way and we have to cancel it. We can't do it. But if you don't prepare, there's no chance for you to be able to have the events or to have the youth leagues or whatever. You have to over prepare, and it's creating a lot more work for everybody. But if we don't, then all we do is just sit at home, and that depression sets in. We're not able to move forward. So that was a great question, Liz.
And as you think about preparing, right, what are you preparing for the new normal? What do you imagine the new normal to be? Because you're now living it, so you can create it and set the new standard. What are you imagining?
Well, for one, we are having all of our buildings to go under a global certification for cleanliness. I think that is very critical there, that we are able to share with not only our citizens, but also our visitors, that we are going to be as germ-free as we can. And then the other part of it is that we are preparing there with our medical and emergency services to have rapid response teams whenever there is any virus that breaks out, that we can isolate and take care of it in a quick way, and that is very critical. And then we are also there trying to show the flexibility that we have in our facilities, but also we have really mobilized our medical and emergency response teams uh, in our entertainment district, so that we can be able to have events. And they have worked hand in hand with our uh, sports team owners and their staffs in developing very detailed guidelines, including Six Flags. And so we have extremely detailed guidelines for both the staffs, for our city personnel that are in medical and emergency responses, and then the operations personnel here for all of the venues as they operate them.
If I'm a fan coming to one of your games, what do you imagine I'll see differently? Like post 9/11, there was a security system. How will I feel it differently, do you imagine?
Well, I think you will see two very stringent guidelines for your behavior when you come in there with it. You will also see social distancing happening. You will see fans scattered from 12 rows up. The first 12 rows are shut off so that you're not near the ball players, but literally from that 13th row all the way to the rafters, we have fans scattered throughout. And then amazingly, with no fans, it is not a great experience. I really was shocked. I missed the commentary. I think I'd just as soon watch it on TV. So when professional athletes talk about the fans' contribution, it has really been realized, because when we had those 11,500 fans at the World Series, they were loud. They added a real depth to the game itself, and we were really surprised. And we can't wait to have 40,000 fans in there, because we know that's just going to add to the excitement. But that is, Liz, you're going to see that even though we have a reduced amount, we're using the whole ballpark or the whole stadium to social distance and spread our fans out. And then the other thing you'll see is that our concession stands are very concentrated, to where when you're waiting in line, you are not jammed up, and that they really work hard to have express lanes, but you are 6 foot distance between the next patron there as they move forward there with it too. So that's some of the things you'll see.
So at a couple points, we've got some questions in the tray, and in a way, you've already gotten to these questions. One comes from a student of ours, Connor Reynolds, who's asking about developing this new sense of normalcy, this new style of normalcy. Can you tell us a little bit more about the atmosphere beyond the logistics? What kind of messaging is involved? What's sort of in the running to make sure that there are all these safety precautions, but people really need to feel safe once they're there? What does that look like to you?
Well, for one, there is signage all over the ballpark or the stadium, reminders, and then that is another part of the staff. In all of our ballparks and stadiums, we always had ushers. Well, now they have taken on a new role, because they also are monitors to make sure people are actually obeying the guidelines there inside the ballpark itself. And yes, there are announcements made by the voice of the stadium or ballpark that also is constantly reminding there as we move forward. And of course, it's a huge message to communicate, because it's even though it is to help you, but more importantly, it's to help other people. there is and showing respect there for your neighbor. And it's something that we're going to have to live with as we move forward. And we don't know when the next pandemic will hit. We hope it's another 100 years, but it's always best we are preparing that it could be hitting at any time. And so we are ready to be able to jump on that and isolate it, and then also to be prepared not to spread it in our sports stadiums.
Further on that, another question in the trade from Daniel Kelly, who directs our graduate programs here at the Tisch Institute. He was asking questions about Globe Life Stadium and hosting more than 60 high school graduation events, which you just spoke to. Peeling off of his question a bit, I'm interested, what's the relationship with different events going into the major league stadiums? And I kind of ask it in this way. We've seen some interesting things in Texas when we were permitted to travel more frequently that I think is really it's interesting and it's remarkable in that the relationship with the city, the school districts, and access to these facilities is really something that isn't so transactional. It's really quite community oriented. I wanted you to speak to that.
Absolutely. And I probably need to share with you that AT&T Stadium was built not just for football. It was meant to be a special event center, to be able to have concerts, to be able to boat shows, trade shows, corporate gatherings, and all. And they're doing that. Well, when Globe Life Field there was moving forward in the design, it too wanted to take advantage of being able to host multiple types of events. And so we are going to be hosting the National Finals Rodeo that had been in Las Vegas for years because Nevada is not able to have major events. And so, yes, this major league ballpark was designed to be able to do rodeos. And so and then also not rodeos like you see, it is going to have a huge warm up area, and it will be a really neat venue. So consequently, whenever we were having trouble with all of our high schools finding a safe place and by the way, this is in May, June, and July when these graduations take place, it is really hot in Texas. And so trying to find a place that would be out of the weather or climate controlled was also an issue. But imagine when you're having, say, 10,000 people, and of course, some of these graduations were 2,000 or 3,000 people. Well, Globe Life Field is an ideal place to be able to spread them out, still keep the roof closed, and put them into air conditioning. And the Rangers, the Texas Rangers organization, were so accommodating. We were in a natural disaster, and there was so much a sense of loss, and to deny these kids the opportunity to have their high school graduation was very sad. Well, they were able to work incredible economical. And basically, they lost money on opening up to have these graduations. But here's what happened: not only were the parents and students grateful to the Rangers organization, they also were great ambassadors to say, "Man, you're not going to believe this ballpark. We were inside, and it was incredible." Well, we still now have a lot. I mean, we literally have millions of people that live here in the Metroplex that have yet to go inside this ballpark because of the pandemic. Normally, everyone would have been afforded an opportunity to be able to go in. And so having the World Series there after this, we had the graduations that helped, but then no one is going to our regular season Major League Baseball because they weren't allowing fans. But to have the World Series and have that exposure certainly has helped, and it also has whet the appetite of so many.
Well, I want to take a turn, if we can, a pivot of sorts, to a stadium that people have been to in some numbers. You've got Esports Stadium Arlington there, and I'm just going to actually ask that we just turn it to you because I've heard you speak to it, and interested to know really for our audience. Why esports? What does it mean to the city in the present, and what does it mean for the future?
Well, I'm eternally grateful, Lee and Liz, and your students there for bringing us the recommendation there that the next thing we should enter would be the esports world. And the timing could not have been better there, because we literally had uh, our own sports franchise owners buying these esports teams. And when you initially brought it to me, I had to do a lot of studying. I was not up on the industry. And to begin with, it is one of the fastest growing industries, not only in the nation, but in the world. And then, of course, it also touches people of all ages, ethnicities, uh, socioeconomic. It hits everyone. And now major money has come into this industry because companies have found it is a great way to advertise to millennials. And so they are spending money. Well, that means the prize money for the esports athletes is suddenly gone way up, and they are making millions of dollars here in this industry there. And then we have people coming into the industry that are true athletes. They're training 12 hours a day. Well, also for me as a mayor, I saw an opportunity for us to be able to help our image, which we are known as a very innovative city, but the opportunity to be able to attract young talent and to keep young talent. And then I had to find out from you guys that the national college champion was my local university, the University of Texas at Arlington, there, that had won the dorm championship of esports there just the year before. And it was really fun to get to know them. Immediately after you shared that with me, I went and met their coach, and in fact, I took the president of the university with me, and we met the coach, and we met the student athletes in esports, and they all had a great story, and they were all from different backgrounds. Well, so we there also visited with the Jones family, and then Ray Davis and Neil Liebman, the owners of the Rangers, who had both bought esports franchises, and they too were very interested. So we immediately went into remodeling and creating our esports arena, which currently is the largest in the country. Philadelphia is about to open one up, I think, and be larger. But we knew that was coming, and it's been a very exciting ride there with it. And last year, in November, we hosted the Oscars of esports that had been in London the last 3 years, and that was a neat thing to say. London last year, Arlington this year, and it was hugely successful. We had the brain trust of esports actually in a work session that they let me attend, in which they were all experts talking about where the industry was going, what they needed to do, and then that night. It was a phenomenal event that was televised all over the world there, that literally had millions of people watching here from Arlington. Well, this November, and in fact, in 2 weeks, we were supposed to have that again. And because of the pandemic, it has been canceled. But we will have it next year. And of course, also, there is a lot of pivoting going on right now in esports. But the future looks bright because it is a sport that can weather the pandemic or future viruses. And then one of the things I really love, and then I'll stop, and is that my corporations, we are home to L3, which is one of the leaders in flight simulator development and training pilots from all over the world. They wanted me to start a corporate league, and they wanted to challenge Lockheed Martin, which is also here, and also Bell. Well, we have started those corporate leagues, and they are just having a ball competing. And they all have these different software engineers and highly technical people that are having just a whole lot of fun competing with each other and creating great camaraderie and brotherhood there inside the sport itself. So I'll stop, and Lee, Liz, any other questions or things you want me to cover?
Yeah, on
Look,
the east,
not at all. I mean, first of all, before Liz, and I know Liz is lying in wait with some questions here. I want to make sure that we go no further without thanking, of course, a third partner here, or part of our trio, the U.S. Conference of Mayors,
Oh, absolutely.
Tom Cochran, uh, Tom McClyman, and Jocelyn Bogan, without whom none of this would be, and were it not for things that we started looking into in traditional sports, we wouldn't have come across esports and the great things happening in Arlington. So I just wanted to mention, of course, the
That's how I
mayors.
met Lee and Liz. If it hadn't been for Tom and Tom, I would never have met you guys. And then that's isn't that awesome what the U.S. Conference of Mayors does in bringing people together. It was an awesome thing. And then wasn't it neat that they came to Arlington for the Esports Awards this last fall?
Oh, we're going to let on another night, we're going to let Tom, and Jocelyn talk about their experience in Arlington just during the Esports Awards. And we'll just do a talk on that alone. It's its own thing. But Liz, go ahead.
one of the things I recall that you did on the esports side was also um, guarantee students that were in high school that were going to go to the University of Arlington in esports jobs. That
Yes.
you really tied the pieces together, which I was, if you could talk about that, that would be great.
Yeah, it's very exciting because the University of Texas at Arlington now is offering a degree in esports, and of course, there's so many different aspects to it. And then our high schools there are doing leagues, and we actually have an outside gallery there in which we have 40 stations. They're state of the art stations for them to come and play esports there that is open all the time. We leave that access there, continuing to build that opportunity among our young people. And interestingly enough, our president of our Arlington Convention and Visitors Bureau's son has become ranked in Fortnite. There he is, all through what's happened here with our esports arena.
How else do you imagine it playing into the economics when you look forward?
Well, I probably should say this. It is scalable to where literally parks and recreation departments in any size city could be able to organize leagues and organize esports there through it. We have a state of the art esports arena that is incredible. But however, when you think about the opportunity for you to go into your libraries or your recreation centers and to be able to set up stations there, or even to your schools there too, you can easily set up leagues, and then the businesses are very supportive of it too. And so we are working on creating our parks and recreation youth leagues there too. And so I think that is going to factor into it. And then as far as the dollars and cents of this, I think we're going to continue to see the sponsorship continue to rise, and the dollars continue to multiply. And then there are a lot of great minds that are now working on monetizing it. And then I'll share with you kind of a wild thing that has happened too. The National Medal of Honor Museum chose Arlington to come to, and they chose the site directly adjacent to our esports arena. And already we have esports game makers, creators, and I'm sure I didn't say the right word. They are creating a National Medal of Honor Museum game. And so we'll have a new game that will be created. And then also the exhibit designers have learned from the esports arena and esports itself there, and they're going to have some really neat interactive exhibits. And I won't say any more inside the museum. They're wanting to surprise people with the digital opportunities that will exist inside the museum itself, and it is opening in 2024.
So you really talked about the interlacing of the different pieces of the ecosystem, of the esports ecosystem in Arlington. Earlier you talked about the teams also investing in esports teams. Can we take it the other way? Do you see the fans going across? The fans were losing in sports because the events are closed, moving to esports. Do you see any bridging beginning to happen there from where you sit?
Absolutely. And that was another part of my learning process. I was amazed when I attended in person the events, how much I enjoyed them. And then, of course, the real opportunity in esports is so many are watching them virtually. That's an amazing thing when you look at, you may have 1,500 in person, but then you'll have 400,000 or 2 million watching virtually. And so this is that's pandemic proof too, Liz. That's that's pretty awesome, because so far we have not been able to catch the virus over our internet, have we? That's good.
Mayor, come back to some questions from those who are joining us, and one of them comes from a student of ours, Tommaso, who is interested in you speaking more to the economic and social impacts of esports and building what he calls a savvy, healthy, and educated community.
Well, needless to say, when you speak about the smallest scale, when you're doing youth sports there, whether it be softball, soccer, or whatever else, many of the same principles there apply there to esports, to where you have an entry fee, you're able to set up the stations, or even allow them to be able to play from the comfort of their own home. But then the opportunity to be able to set up a true championship tournament venue then adds a whole nother element to it. And then it is amazing there, the friendships that are forged. We actually saw the fact that we had there one of our esports teams. Actually, he went and was the best man in a wedding in Belgium because his best friend was in Belgium, and he had never met him in person. Now think about that. Esports brought them together, and that is such an important thing when you think about unity and you think about the social aspect of that, and that makes the world very small. It also those friendships may very well serve us so well there as these two people progress. But it's just one example of how we can bring the world together, because we're all striving for unity. That's one thing that is very important, and it's very much a part of it. Is elevated even more as we have gone through the various crises that we're going through right now. And so I think that is another benefit of esports. But then as you progress on up the ladder, the economics of bringing in sponsors, the economics of corporations or businesses wanting to pay there to be sure that their employees have this opportunity. What a great team building exercise there that you have, that actually takes advantage of many of their expertise there too, and what they are doing in their own occupation. But it also brings to light one of a very popular hobby. And of course it is a hobby when you start looking at that, but of course then also it has now become a profession. And when you sit there and look at the professionals they are doing amazing things within the esports formats that are extraordinary. And as we watch them, we are amazed there. And definitely a lot of these amateur esports athletes are amazed, and you can see that. And then that brings in again the opportunity for products to be advertised throughout these esports tournaments, and that's at different levels. That could be the mom and pop diner that's down the street in one case, and then it may be a Procter and Gamble product on a big showcase there. All of those factor into the economy. And then for us, I mentioned again, we are very much wanting to keep a lot of our talent that is graduating from the University of Texas at Arlington here. We have the jobs, but we also need to have that image and the opportunity there for them to have recreation. And so that is huge to get to keep them. And then also we are working, our companies here are all talking about, they need to be able to attract, the world's brightest millennials. And so this is a big part of us being able to do that. So those are all benefits. And basically we spent a whole day there at the when we had the esports summit at the esports awards, talking about all of these different merits and how we capitalize on them.
And to that, we talk so much when it comes to esports about real engagement and real community, and the levels of it are through the chart. And then you just spoke to it. One of the questions that's just come up in Trey is from a student of ours, Neil, who says that he'd like to ask about investing in esports, and basically, will it capture the lost fan engagement and viewership that we're seeing across traditional sports? Some a bit before the pandemic, but certainly accentuated by and accelerated by the pandemic, which maybe asks the question this way: how much crossover do you see between those fan bases, and where's the development?
Well, I'll tell you where I can't say for sure how much fan crossover there is, but there is athlete crossover. It is amazing the number of Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers that love video games, and in fact, some of our celebrity matches they have been big attractors of fans. I mean, when you sit there and think about having Dak Prescott, our quarterback, they're taking on the Joey Gallo from the Rangers. They're doing that, or it also can be embarrassing, but when we see that same going against, when they think they're pretty good, going against one of our top esports athletes, it can be pretty embarrassing there, but it also can be pretty amazing. And we've had several of our athletes being willing to humble themselves and take them on, and it's amazing what they can do. So it's still yet to be seen how much fan crossover there is. But obviously, some of it's existing, but I don't have the stats of it. But imagine there's someone who enjoys watching baseball or football. There may very likely want to watch the other. But I think really the fan base is the person who is at home and they are playing and really have been enjoying a video game, and suddenly they go, I would love to be able to watch some of the others, and they are doing that, and then the opportunity to go watch a match live is a whole nother level.
So with thanks on that, we're coming near the end of our time, and we have some questions that I know we want to turn a little bit more to you. And so, Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, as mayor, I mean, part of, what you've done is really created a different kind of economic environment, different reputation, different dynamic in the city. A place that retains and attracts talent and is a healthier environment for organizations. But you've done it at a moment when we've had this crossfire from the pandemic that's undercut maybe the ability to really measure and feel it. I was just wondering how you you've gotten there. I can feel it. I can feel it in the vibes. But what is it that you're looking at? What is it you're paying attention to when you look forward? What's really important?
Wow, Liz, that is deep right there. What I am trying not to do right now is to look back at the much loss that we have had there. When I think about us having the esports awards here this fall, if we had not had this pandemic, and when I think about where we would be right now in our development, in fact, we've even We've had convention centers, we've had more hotels that have been on hold. They're going to come back. In fact, that's very encouraging to me, is that that we have just been delayed. It is still going to happen. Uh, but I am uh, I am so convinced that esports is going to grow to become one, if not our top, one of the top sports in America. And of course, a lot of that as technology advances. Imagine jumping into the body of LeBron James that has been recreated on the computer based on his true stats of his physical abilities that have been measured. And suddenly you are in your home playing for the Lakers, and you are actually making the movements there to be able to play. That is what I am being shared with on from the greatest minds in esports. It's very obvious there that they are going to be melding with Major League Baseball, with NFL, the NBA, uh, our Major League Soccer teams there, and all of our sports are going to be advancing in that realm too. And so I just see it continuing to grow. And then the business minds are just beginning on the sport. They are just beginning on how to monetize and take advantage of this. But from a mayor standpoint, there the opportunity for us to be able to do team building, to attract talent, to be able to attract people from around the world to our city. And even if they're not coming here personally, to be able to see it over the internet and to watch it, it's phenomenal.
Mayor, a question that we would like to ask is your professional background, your path to being elected mayor. Uh, how does that influence what you're doing today and how you're looking at Arlington going forward?
Well, my background there, I am actually a registered professional engineer, and I did the engineering on AT&T Stadium and also on the original ballpark. When I became mayor, I wasn't able to do the engineering on the new one, but definitely the other part of it is that I spent a lot of my career in working on economic development for cities there in my occupation, and so between the technical background and then owning a business and then also the ability to see about economic development, and then basically living in Arlington for 30 years and seeing where, which is tourism is a big part of it. All of that played a heavy background, and I think it allowed us to move faster because I didn't have to, and then two, I am very much a proponent of being a lifelong learner. And I think now we are at the beginning of a technology revolution like we have never seen before. And so we are going to be experiencing more change. And we've got to be willing to be accepting of change, but also when we try out new technology, new sports, we got to be willing to test them quickly. And if it's not working, let's move on to something else. But it is an extremely exciting time there to people who are willing to embrace change and to embrace technology. It's a very scary time for people that don't like change, and so we've got to be cognizant of all of that and be able to bring our people to along. And I can't wait to the next thing that Lee, you and Liz suggest that we need to be getting into. That's awesome. And what your students there come up with, because count on Arlington will be willing to try it. And then we also were the first city in America to run driverless public shuttles. And we did it out at the stadiums, and it was scary. We didn't have a steering wheel, didn't have a brake in those facilities, but our citizens embraced it, and we were the first city in Texas to run driverless vehicles on our public streets, and we didn't have a single complaint. So we are ready to try the next thing that you guys suggest, because esports was a real winner. And thank you to the U.S. Conference of Mayors for introducing us.
Well, it's almost a great note to end on, but there is one more question. I'm going to combine actually two.
Okay.
And now that you've raised the bar for us on what's coming next, It's a question from Thomas Liu, who's a student of ours, and from David Abrams, who's a faculty member, our finance and infrastructure maven. And it's really about coming full circle here. You spoke earlier about Arlington's geographic location. And so have that in mind. And then what's between that and what's next for Arlington? What comes to mind?
Well, it's I can just share with you, you know, in our quest to be one of the major destinations, we are on a quest for the Tisch family with Loews Hotels to build 4,000 hotel rooms and create a resort atmosphere around these stadiums, around Six Flags, and around the National Medal of Honor Museum. And then we are also there in the old ballpark, which, by the way, we have the only former Major League ballpark that is still being used. And it has a major office component. And we are going to be having more office there. What cooler site could it be to have your office than to be overlooking there all of these facilities, and to be able to watch Major League Soccer go on, Texas high school football, and rugby. And that's what's happening inside our former Major League Baseball facility. So we're going to have more office. We're also going to be building high-rise residential units so people can live out here among all of this. And then in addition to that, stay tuned, because Six Flags is looking at doing some really neat things, just like Universal Studios has done with the Tisch family out in Orlando. Well, Six Flags is pivoting to do different things. And then we are looking at other new attractions that may fit in there and complement what we have, because all of our parking lots that are out here in the entertainment district, which total about 200 acres, because of advancement with Uber, Lyft, autonomous vehicles, we're not going to need as much parking. But we anticipate all of them will either be in parking garage, office, residential, or further attractions here to be able to increase the size. And we are at the southern gateway to DFW International Airport, which was just deemed the greatest airport in the world. They just won that award. And right now they are having more flights in and out than any other airport in the United States. There. And so that's a huge thing. And the opportunity for people to be able to fly from the East Coast and the West Coast to the center of the country for these events. And then London, well, I should say the Esports awards organizers are out of London, and they actually said the time zone was so much better to be coming here to Arlington because it evened out between Australia and New Zealand and Europe. And so that was an interesting aspect too, when you're doing an international event that you're televising worldwide. That also helped us. So those are some of the things that we have going.
Well, if that's not a note to end on, my goodness, Mayor, thank you so much. Thanks as well to Ron Price and friends at the CVB there, and certainly thanks to everyone who joined in from Tisch Institute, students and faculty, others along the way, our friends at the Conference of Mayors. And again, just a big thank you to you for your time and for joining us. And of course, we only look forward to it in person before too long.
Well, thank you, and very excited about the future, and know that better days are ahead. And I can't wait to see what the next, what can I say, recommendation out of your students and your professors is for Arlington, Texas. And by the way, we're grabbing the title. We are the city that crowns champions. And then NBC and Washington Post called us the sports and entertainment capital. So we're going to grab it. We're going to hold on to it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, we're going to go. That's the note to end on. There you go.
Entertainment capital.
Well, there you go. Thanks everyone for joining this Tisch Institute Chalk Talk, and looking forward to the next one with, I believe it's with Dean Vince Gennaro. Everyone be well and take care. Thanks again.